To store data in Python, you need to use a variable, and every variable has its type depending on the value of the data stored. Python has dynamic typing, which means you don't have to explicitly declare the type of your variable, but you can if you'd like. So here I'm going to declare a variable, and it's going to be a string because I'm using a single or double quotation marks. So let's focus on how we determine a type first. So here I'm going to call my variable, and that's going to be equal to I'm going to say a string of variable. And to determine what classification is, I'm going to print out type and in parentheses the variable. And when I run this code, it will declare what type it is. So you'll see it classifies this as a string, which is the str. And that is correct because I use single or double quotation marks for this variable. So the Boolean type is one of the most basic types in programming. So a Boolean type variable can be expressed or represented in either true or false. So here I'm going to call my bool, which is going to be true, and if I print the type of this, the classification will be labeled as bool, short for Boolean. There are 3 numeric types, which are integers, floats, and complex. Let's start with integers. So an integer is a whole number. So if I have a variable called my int, and I'm going to have that equal to a whole number like 32, if I print out this type, the variable inside of those parentheses, and I run the code, it will print out the classification of integer, which is abbreviated int in Python. Next, we'll do floats. So a float is a decimal value. So instead of a whole value like integers of 32, if we do a value like 46.23, and I print out the type, and in parentheses the variable, it will show the classification being a float. And then the last one being complex, where if I have a complex variable, let's say it's just my complex number, and have that equal to a value such as like 52 plus 5j, and I print out the type for this my complex number, you'll see that the classification printed out is labeled as complex. So next we can get into strings. So it's kind of like the introduction I just showed you guys to the text type, and one of the most common types out there is often called strings, or in Python just str. So if I have a variable called like my city and it's going to be Pittsburgh, and I print out the type, it's going to print out the classification. But let's print out a little bit more just to show you what strings can do. If I print out len, which is going to show me the length of characters in my variable. And there's other things that you can do, such as like do my variable plus lower and plus upper, and that will capitalize or lowercase every single character in your string. And then we can also replace stuff. So if I want to do dot replace, I want to replace the letter P or the character P in Pittsburgh with L. If I print all these, you'll see that the length, well, the classification is string, the length is 10 characters, I have Pittsburgh in upper and lowercase, and I also have the P being replaced with L, making it Litzburg. You can also use the plus operator to concatenate strings. Concatenation is when you use 2 or more strings and you can join them into one. So if here I do print word 1 plus word 2, it's going to combine the 2 and print out New York. The string type has many built-in methods that lets you manipulate them, and I'll demonstrate them in future methods. But let's get into lists for now, and a list has its items ordered, and you can add the same item as many times as you want. An important detail is that lists are mutable. Mutability means you can change a list after creation by adding items, removing them, or even just changing their values. There are also things such as sets. So a set does not guarantee the order of the items and are not indexed. A key point when using sets is that they don't allow repetition for an item. So here you see I have in my set A, B, C, and C. If I print the type, it'll declare set, but when I print out the set itself, it wouldn't show 2 values of C. It'll only be 1, and also the orientation or the arrangement would never be consistent. It would randomly print out the variables. There's also dictionaries, and a dictionary doesn't guarantee the order of the elements and is mutable. One important characteristic is dictionary is that they have a set of their own access keys for each element. So a key would be like country and states, which are on the left side of the semicolon, and then the values are USA and 50. But that just introduced the types, where there's also one I missed out, which was tuples. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for future videos. Make sure to like and subscribe.